Good afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office. Storm Amy brought disruption for many of us on Saturday. Today will be a little bit of a calmer day, all thanks to high pressure building down towards the south of the country. There is still some weather fronts just feeding in, just skirting across the very far north of the country, giving us a bit of a north-south split as we head through the early part of the week. We'll eventually see those weather fronts sink their way south and eastwards though, and then we'll start to see high pressure building out towards the west of the country. That bringing us something a little more settled as we head through the second half of the week. Back to the rest of Sunday though, and it's a bit of a calmer day compared to what we saw on Saturday. It will still be rather breezy, particularly across the north and northeast, so those winds definitely stepping down a notch compared to what we saw over the first part of the weekend. Quite a damp picture to end the afternoon on Sunday across western parts of Scotland. Outbreaks of persistent rain, perhaps turning slightly heavy at times, but it'll be the south that fares best in terms of any drier conditions, perhaps some sunny spells developing here through the afternoon. Temperatures will be up a degree or two compared to what we saw on Saturday, and with those lighter winds it'll be feeling a little less cold, a little more pleasant in the sunshine, particularly across the south and the southeast. Highs here of 16 to 18 degrees and generally closer to average further north, and perhaps still feeling a little cooler with that brisk northwesterly wind. So a bit of a damp end to the day across western parts of Scotland through Sunday evening. Further outbreaks of persistent rain feeding in from the west is perhaps turning a little heavy at times as we go into the early hours of Monday morning. But parts of England, parts of Wales, generally staying that little more settled as we go through the overnight period, some clear spells developing. That could lead to some mist and fog in places and perhaps turning a little chilly across the very far south. In some rural spots, we could see temperatures dropping down into the low or mid single figures, but generally staying a little bit milder further north, where we do hold on to that cloud and rain. So quite a damp start to the new working week for western parts of Scotland. Further outbreaks of rain do continue to feed in from the west, pushing their way eastwards as we go through the afternoon. Once again though, the south faring best in terms of any sunnier spells, perhaps some more prolonged sunshine here compared to Sunday. Still some fairly brisk wet southerly winds feeding up across western parts of Scotland, further outbreaks of perhaps heavy rain at times. But where you do catch the sunshine, it'll be feeling a lot warmer on Monday compared to over the weekend. Highs in the south of 20, 21, perhaps even 22 degrees, and even eastern parts of Scotland could be reaching into the low 20s too, so a lot warmer than it was over the weekend. Those outbreaks of rain do continue though across western parts of Scotland as we head through the new working week and into the start of Tuesday. Further outbreaks of quite heavy rain feeding in across western parts of Scotland. That weather front eventually slowly sinking its way south and eastwards. Some further cloud feeding in from the south across southern areas too. So perhaps not quite as chilly here overnight into the start of Tuesday, but generally quite a mixed picture into the start of Tuesday. And then high pressure does start to develop, as I mentioned earlier, as we go through the second half of the week. But you can make sure you find out more about that by hitting subscribe to our YouTube channel. Bye for now.